The mountains were silent that morning, the kind of silence that feels older than memory, older than war, older even than the men who tried to survive between the two. Rai walked alone along the narrow ridge, first clinging to the edges of his worn sandals. The wind pushed against him like a warning, but he didn't slow. His mind had been louder than any storm these past months, and compared to that inner turbulence, the mountain's cold felt almost merciful. He had left the clan 2 seasons ago. Not because he was expelled, not because he was dishonoured, but because the truth had become impossible to ignore. He had mastered every technique, except himself. Rai had been trained for years in the art of silent movement, blade discipline, night reconnaissance, psychological reading, but none of it could stop the battles that erupted inside his own chest. Every mistake, every moment of doubt, every failure replayed in his mind with a violence sharper than any sword. He remembered the last time he had frozen in training, an exercise meant to simulate a sudden ambush. His partner lunged, but something in Rai's mind collapsed. His breath vanished, his limbs locked, his vision tunneled. When he fell to the ground with a wooden blade pressed against his throat, he wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of the truth. He had no control over himself. So he left, not in a dramatic storm of anger, but in the quiet resignation of a man who knows he cannot keep pretending. He left to find something he didn't have words for. Clarity, maybe. Courage, maybe. Or perhaps a way to stop being at war with himself. And that search led him here, to a shrine rumored to hold the last living student of forgotten martial philosophy, a man whispered about in distant villages, the one they called the keeper of the still mind. Rai didn't expect miracles. He didn't even expect answers. He only hoped for a beginning. As the path opened into a clearing, Rai saw it, a small wooden structure pressed between 2 ancient cedars. Smoke rose gently from a stone chimney. A thin figure knelt beside the entrance, chopping with small, deliberate strikes, not fast or forceful, but strangely precise. Each movement seemed to start somewhere deeper than muscle. Rai approached and bowed. "I'm seeking guidance." The old man didn't look up. "No, you are seeking escape." Rai felt his breath catch. "Escape from what?" The man struck another piece of wood. "From your own mind." Rai didn't know how to respond. The stranger stood, wiped his hands on his robe, and finally met Rai's eyes so calm they made Rai feel transparent. "You carry storms," the man said. "Too many." "How could you know that?" Rai asked quietly. The old man stepped closer. "Because your shoulders are raised. Your jaw is tight. Your breath is trapped in your throat. These are not the marks of a warrior. These are the marks of a man drowning in thoughts he cannot contain." Rai exhaled shakily. "I can't control what happens inside me," he admitted. "I react before I understand. I freeze before I decide. I lose myself, and I don't know how to stop." The old man nodded once. "Good. You finally speak the truth." He turned and gestured toward the shrine. "Enter." Inside, the shrine was nearly empty. A mat, a kettle, a candle, and a single wooden training sword resting on a stone. "Sit," the man instructed. Rai sat today. The older man lit the candle, placed it between them, and spoke softly. "Tell me what you believe calmness is." Rai thought for a moment, not feeling anything. No fear, no anger, no doubt. The old man shook his head. "That is not calm. That is numbness. Numbness is cowardice disguised as strength. A true warrior does not erase emotion. He reads it." He lifted the wooden sword and handed it to Rai. "Strike me." Rai hesitated. "I don't want to harm you." "You won't." The calmness in the man's voice felt heavier than steel. Rai swung. Halfway through the motion, the old man simply stepped aside, letting Rai's blade cut through empty air. "You did not strike," he said. "You hesitated." Rai clenched his jaw. "Because I overthink." "No, because you do not trust your own movement." The man took the sword back and placed it down. In battle, hesitation is death, and hesitation begins not in the hands, but in the thoughts. Rai lowered his head. The old man sat across from him. "Let me tell you something few will ever understand. The mind is incapable of being empty. It is always moving, always speaking, always pulling you in different directions. He leaned forward. Calm is not the silence of the mind. Calm is the skill of not obeying every thought. Rai felt something inside him shift, like a door cracking open. "How do I learn that skill?" he asked. The old man poured tea into 2 small cups. "You will begin by watching your mind the way a warrior watches an approaching enemy, with distance, with observation, with clarity, not fear." He passed Rai the cup. "Tomorrow, your training begins. But tonight, you must rest. A storm cannot learn during a storm." Rai nodded, though part of him still felt unsure. As the candlelight flickered across the shrine walls, the old man spoke one last time before leaving Rai alone. "Before you sleep, ask yourself this: are you losing battles, or are you losing yourself before the battle even begins?" Rai closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he wasn't afraid of the question. And for the first time, he wanted the answer. If this first part of Rai's journey spoke to you, take a moment to like the video. It helps the story reach more warriors who need it. Rai woke before sunrise, long before the old man stirred. The air in the mountains felt different that morning, denser somehow, as if the forest itself was aware of what he had come to learn. The sky glowed with the faintest warmth of dawn, yet Rai felt none of it. His mind was already awake, already spinning, already trying to predict the day. But something in him paused when he stepped outside. The old man was already there, sitting on a smooth stone, back straight, eyes half closed, breathing in slow, unbroken rhythm. He wasn't meditating, at least not in the way Rai expected. There was nothing stiff or ceremonial about it. He simply was, completely present, completely grounded, completely unbothered by the world around him. Rai envied it. "You woke early," the old man said without opening his eyes. Rai bowed. "I couldn't sleep." "That is because your mind believes movement is survival," the old man said. "But for the mind, movement is destruction." Rai swallowed. "I want to understand." "You will," the old man replied, rising to his feet, "when you stop trying to understand." He walked toward the edge of the clearing. Rai followed. "Your mind is loud," the old man said, "but your awareness is quiet. Today, you will learn which one truly guides your life." Rai expected combat training. He expected exercises, footwork, drills. Instead, the old man handed him a small stone. Confused, Rai turned it in his hand. "What do I do with this?" "Carry it," the old man said, "wherever we go today." "That's all." "That is enough." They walked into the forest. The ground was uneven, the roots twisted like old scars, the air cool and sharp. Rai walked behind the old man, feeling the stone shift in his grip with each step. Minutes passed, then an hour. The stone grew heavier. Rai's thoughts tightened. Why a stone? What is the point? How does this teach calm? Why waste time? What am I failing to see? The old man didn't look back, but he spoke as if hearing every thought. "Do you see how quickly the mind invents discomfort when none exists?" Rai stiffened. "The stone is uncomfortable." "The stone is neutral," the old man replied. "Your mind makes it heavy. Your mind creates the suffering around it." Rai looked at the stone again. It hadn't changed. Only his interpretation of it had. They continued walking until they reached a place where the forest opened to a valley below. The old man stopped. "Hold out your hand," he said. Rai did. The old man placed a second stone onto his palm. Rai's fingers tightened immediately. The old man raised a brow. "Why did you tense?" "It's heavier," Rai said. "Is it?" the old man asked calmly. "Or did your mind react before your body felt anything?" Rai froze. He realized he had clenched his hand before the weight even touched his skin. The tension was automatic, rehearsed, conditioned. It wasn't a response. It was a reflex built from fear of discomfort. The old man stepped backward. "This is how you approach life," he said. "Before the world even touches you, you tighten." Rai looked down at the stones. "What do I do?" he asked. The old man walked up and tapped Rai's chest with 2 fingers. "You breathe." Rai inhaled. The old man nodded. "And now?" The stones felt slightly lighter. Not weightless, not easy, but less threatening. The old man smiled faintly. Good. We continue. They moved deeper into the forest until they reached a river. The water was cold and fast. The old man stepped into the current without hesitation. Rai followed, wincing as the icy water bit into his legs. The stone slipped in his grip. Pressure built in his fingers. Do not tighten, the old man said. Let the discomfort be what it is, a sensation, not an enemy. Rai's breath came sharp. The cold was overwhelming. His mind screamed at him to move, or fight, or flee, or do something. Anything but stand still in the face of discomfort. The old man turned. This is your life, he said. Every confrontation, every conflict, every emotion. You feel the cold, and you panic. Not because cold is unbearable, but because your mind believes panic will save you. Rai swallowed hard, his teeth almost chattering. Then how do I? Breathe, the old man said. Not for control, not to calm down. Simply to remind your mind who is in charge. Rai inhaled, then exhaled. The cold didn't leave, but his panic softened. He inhaled again. The river still rushed around him, but it no longer felt like it was swallowing him. In his third breath, something subtle shifted. Not the temperature, not the river, but his relationship to the discomfort. It was no longer an enemy. It was simply there, a part of the moment, not a threat. The old man nodded. Now walk. Rai stepped forward, water rising to his knees. His breath anchored him. His shoulders loosened. His steps became steadier. He reached the other side. When Rai stepped onto dry ground, the old man handed him a stick. Break it, he said. Rai snapped it easily. The old man tossed him a thicker one. Break this. Rai tried, but it resisted. His breath hitched. His arms shook. His mind tightened before his body could act. He failed. The old man's voice was soft but sharp. The stick is not strong. You are simply unprepared. Rai frowned. Unprepared for what? For the truth, the old man said. You have trained your muscles, your speed, your technique, but never your awareness. You react from fear before you respond from clarity. He placed the thicker stick aside and pointed at Rai's chest. Your body follows your breath. Your breath follows your awareness. Your awareness follows your mind. If your mind is chaotic, everything beneath it collapses. Rai stood silent. The old man walked closer. To master your mind is not to silence it. It is to create space inside it, a place where your reactions cannot reach. He stepped back. Tomorrow, we enter that space. Rai felt a chill, not of fear, but of anticipation. For the first time, he wasn't ashamed of his inner storms. He was curious about them. He wanted to understand. He wanted to see what lay beneath the noise he'd lived with for years. That night, as he lay on the mat inside the shrine, the stones from earlier resting near his feet, he realized something important. Calm was not something to achieve. Calm was something to uncover, hidden beneath layers of fear, habit, and survival. And he was ready to dig. If Rai's journey is helping you see yourself more clearly, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the final chapter. Rai woke before the old man called for him, but this time he didn't wake with tension in his chest. He didn't wake bracing for the day or rehearsing confrontations in his mind. He simply opened his eyes and breathed. The air felt sharper today, as if the mountain itself knew something was about to shift. The forest was still dark, but there was a faint glow behind the distant ridge, the kind of light that announces a change long before the sun rises. The old man sat outside the shrine, legs crossed, eyes closed. His presence was so still that it blended into the world around him. Rai approached and bowed quietly. You're ready, the old man said without opening his eyes. For what? Rai asked. For the confrontation you've avoided your entire life. Rai straightened slowly. With who? The old man opened his eyes at last. With yourself. He stood in motion for Rai to follow. They walked deeper into the forest, farther than Rai had gone before. The trees grew denser, the air colder, the ground softer under their feet. When they finally reached the clearing, Rai felt a strange pressure, not dangerous, but heavy, like standing at the entrance of a truth he'd ignored for years. At the center of the clearing was a circle of stones, perfectly shaped and perfectly spaced, ancient enough to be blurred by moss and time. The old man stepped into the circle and gestured for Rai to do the same. Sit. Rai sat today. The old man sat across from him and placed a single object between them, a small, polished mirror. Rai frowned. What is this for? The old man folded his hands. The mind you fear lives in this reflection. Rai looked into it. At first, he saw only his face, tired eyes, tense jaw, breath slightly uneven. But the longer he stayed, the more the reflection seemed to shift. His expression changed subtly, becoming harder, colder. Then it changed again, tight, frightened, angry, ashamed. It wasn't magic. It wasn't illusion. It was recognition. These were the faces he wore in every confrontation, every argument, every moment he lost control. The old man's voice was soft. Tell me what you see. Rai swallowed. I see versions of myself. Not versions, the old man corrected. Fragments. Each one a reaction. Each one a memory. Each one a belief you have carried so long. You began to think it was you. Rai's breath faltered. The old man leaned closer. This is your final test. Not to silence what you see, but to face it without obeying it. Rai stared at the shifting reflection. His chest tightened. His throat closed. Old memories surged. Insults, failures, moments where fear made him freeze, moments where anger made him reckless, moments where shame made him small. The mirror didn't show the memories, but the feelings behind them. The old man spoke again. This is a confrontation you lose every time. Not the one with others, the one with yourself. Rai closed his eyes. The memories hammered at him. The instinct to escape rose fast and vicious. Breathe, the old man said. Rai inhaled, a long, slow breath. When he opened his eyes, the reflection was still shifting, still chaotic, but his reaction to it was different. The fear didn't crush him. The shame didn't swallow him. The anger didn't take the shape of his identity. It was still there, but he wasn't inside it. He watched the reflection the way he'd watched the stones yesterday, the river earlier, the cold, the shadows of his thoughts. He watched without becoming. Something deep inside him loosened. The old man smiled faintly. Good. Now, stand. Rai stood. The old man took the mirror and set it aside. What comes next? Rai asked. Movement. He handed Rai a wooden staff, the same one he had used on his first day. Rai expected drills or structured forms, but the old man shook his head. There is no form today. There is only truth. Move from wherever your calm begins. Rai gripped the staff and closed his eyes. He breathed, and then he moved, not with technique, not with rehearsed patterns, not with a memory of what he had been taught. He moved from a place he had never accessed before, a place free from panic, free from tension, free from fear of how he looked or who he was supposed to be. His body flowed through the clearing with grounded intensity. His breath guided him. His awareness shaped him. His presence centered him. He struck, pivoted, swept, twisted, stepped, and paused, but each movement felt less like combat and more like honesty. None of it was perfect. All of it was real. When he finally stopped, sweat cooling on his skin, the forest was silent again. The old man stepped forward. This is your true skill, not the blade, not the strike, not the stance. The world trains warriors to fight others, but a real warrior learns to stop fighting himself. Rai's breath steadied. The old man pointed to his chest. You have finally created the space inside your mind where calm can live. That space is stronger than fear, stronger than anger, stronger than any enemy you will ever face. Rai felt the truth settle in him like a stone placed gently on water. What do I do now? He asked. The old man smiled. You return, not because you are finished, but because you are beginning. The world you left is a world where your calm must walk. Rai nodded slowly. He felt no fear about returning, no anxiety about future confrontations, no panic about failing again. The storms inside him no longer felt like storms, only weather, passing, temporary, harmless unless he clung to them. He bowed deeply, the kind of bow that comes from gratitude, not tradition. The old man bowed in return. As Rai walked down the mountain path, the forest around him seemed different. Lighter, wider, less threatening. He realized that the world had never been the enemy. It had always been the reflection inside him. And now, he could finally face it without losing himself. If Rai's final transformation spoke to you, share in the comments what lesson hit you the hardest.